My guest today can best be described by the title of her book, The Broken Woman. By surviving child abuse, domestic abuse, drug addiction, and a host of health issues, she's turned her tragedies into motivation to help others. Having become both a minister and a substance abuse counselor, she works tirelessly to help other people improve the quality of their lives. If that wasn't enough, she's also using her amazing weight loss journey to inspire people in a whole new way with her plans to compete in the body transformation division of the OCB Mountain State Classic, an all natural bodybuilding competition in June of this year. I could go on and on about this amazing woman, but I'll let you meet the broken woman herself. Please welcome Misty Harris. Misty, welcome to the Jacked Up Podcast. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
As you guys can tell, we know each other a little bit, and we're kind of joking around and stuff as we were getting things ready. So yeah, Misty's still laughing at me, but it's okay. Yeah, I mean, we have it's great to finally get you on here. We have definitely had some crisscrosses and all kinds of good stuff trying to get this planned, but I'm glad we can finally sit down and have a little conversation.
Yeah, I am too. It's taken a while.
Yeah, yes, yeah, but that's okay. Hey, good things come to those who wait. That's what they say,
True.
right? Okay,
True.
so there you go. So that means this is going to be a spectacular episode. That's what that's what this means. Okay, so now I know quite a bit about you, but my viewers know very little. So I mean, I have I can say that from the very beginning when I first met you and I heard your story, it inspired me on so many levels that it's beyond belief. There are so many things that you've been throughout your life and you have overcome. And for someone like me who's just had a few struggles, to look at someone like you and, you know, for you to be the person that you are today, it literally blows my mind. And that's why I really, I was like, I've got to have her on the show. We've got to talk about her journey and everything that she's been through. So with that being said, why don't you get into a little bit of your background, where you were, where your rock bottom was, and how you've made your way back?
My rock bottom, I just have been through so much, starting with child abuse, going into domestic violence situations, because a lot of us, once we've been abused as children, that's what we equate love with, is abuse. I got into drug dealing. I always lived in bad neighborhoods, part of the system until I was 18. It's just been it seemed like one bad thing after another, but I can honestly say I did a lot of it also to myself. But I think my rock bottom was 20 years ago, overdosing, when I got into drugs and I overdosed on numerous pills, crack cocaine, and alcohol.
Wow.
At that point, I was depressed. At that point, my sons had been kidnapped for about 5.5 years, and I was over. My daughter had mental health issues, and I basically had just given up, didn't care anymore.
Right. Unfortunately, that happens. Things just constantly bombard you. I know that one of my children was handicapped. She was classified as having cerebral palsy. But, pretty much what happened was the back half of her brain didn't develop. So she had a lot of issues. She was like a big baby. And I had talked to people over the years and they were like, how can you, put yourself through live in those types of situations and have to deal with the things that you have to deal with. And you have to look at your kids and see the struggles that they go through. Right. How are you able to, not only survive that yourself, because it can weigh on your mind, but be there for your kids as well. And I mean, I can only imagine, what were the circumstances, if you don't mind my asking, that led up to the kidnapping?
I call it kidnapping. The state of North Carolina didn't.
Oh, okay.
I had moved out of my son's grandmother. I lived with her for, I don't know, under a year. She had taken me in, said she was going to help me. But it was more of control. She was mad that I would not be with their father, who was abusive. He was cheating.
Okay.
He was running around. He couldn't even keep us in a stable, residence. So I lived with her, but it was all control. To what she put on my plate to eat, to how much we ate, to where we went, when we could go. So finally, when she was gone one day, I ran out. I had met some people and I ran out. I
Uh-huh.
unfortunately moved in with a guy, but she got so upset that she came at me. She came to the house with a gun and threatened my life. I think it
Oh.
was a couple weeks later. I had it, and I thought, well, let me forgive her,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt she needed to be a part of my grandkids' life. I figured we just have to agree to disagree.
Right.
So I kind of, white flagged it, wanted a truce. And I offered her to go ahead, and she wanted to take them for the weekend. And I offered her to go ahead and take all three of my children for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then when I went to go get my children back, they were gone. She had taken
Wow.
them across from North Carolina all the way to the state of Oregon to their father.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it was to get back at me. It was
Sure.
it was just vengeance. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's horrible when kids get caught up in stuff like that. It
It
really is.
is.
I've known several people over my lifetime that have dealt with similar situations like messy divorces and things like
Mhm.
that, and it's like the kids are the ones that suffer.
Yeah.
I know I've been married. I'm on marriage number 3. They say the
So am
third
I.
time. They say the third time's a charm, and I firmly believe it. It is.
Yep.
I've got me a good one this time. But it's like the struggles that I went through in my first marriage and going through the divorce and everything else. There were a lot of issues in my first marriage where I should have left sooner than what I did,
Yeah.
but I didn't, because I was always one of those people that I was like, I don't want to be a weekend father to my children. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And that's so prevalent in today's society.
It
So it
is.
was like, I'm not going to go that route. Yes, the situation that I'm in isn't good, but it's important that I'm here for my kids. But it got to the point where things were so bad that I saw that what was actually going on between their mother and I was hurting them.
Yep.
It was being more detrimental because I was staying there in the situation. They were constantly being immersed in it,
Yeah.
all the arguing and bickering and all that stuff. So I made the decision that, if I leave and we get a divorce, at least the pain will stop at some point in time. They won't
Right.
be constantly berated with it every day. And that's what I did. And, people like, some of the stuff that you've been through and things like that, that there are people that hang on to these relationships.
Yep.
Some of them are extremely abusive. And it's like you said, people that have been abused have a tendency to equate that as love.
Yeah. They do.
Yeah, I mean, I have known people that literally their relationship could be going really, really good, but if one of the two of them had been abused,
Mhm.
once things started going really well, in their mind, that
Self-sabotage.
wasn't right. That wasn't right. They
Yep.
needed to sabotage it, and they would cheat or they would do other types
Mhm.
of things that would cause this behavior to just continue to replicate itself. And people don't, when you're in it, you don't know. I mean, I'm sure back in those days, you didn't realize what was going on. All you were doing was living your life as your life had led you to live it, you
Yeah,
know?
at the time I didn't know what was going on. They started out as these fairy tale relationships,
Hmm.
but when I finally got to the end of it, I realized that they was all um it was kind of like they were all my stepfather, but
Right.
in different bodies.
Yeah.
But it took
Yep.
a long time for me to realize that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. Because it just, when it's all it's kind of hard to realize that it's not what
Right.
what's happening or whatever isn't what's supposed to be happening.
Mhm.
So it makes it really difficult, and I've always found it interesting that situations like that always seem to tend to lead to other aspects of your life that are kind of almost um self-destructive, or have a sabotaging type nature to them, like you were talking about drug abuse and stuff. It's just so much of this stuff is all connected, and that's where I tell people all the time. I've had people come up to me and they say, well, um you're not a counselor or anything, John, but you seem to be pretty intuitive about what's going on. You seem to have a sense about people and whatnot. And I've literally had people talk to me and say, well, I've got, my my significant other is having these issues, and I think that there's been some sort of abuse or something in the past, and I think that that is, causing issues in our relationship now. And they're like, but I don't know what to do. And the best advice I can give them is, support your significant other and try to help them find and get the help that they need, because they do need help. I mean, I'm sure you would say this just as fast as anybody would, for as much as most of us are like, I'll deal with my troubles on my own, you can't always do that. Sometimes your troubles are bigger than what you are. Mm-hmm. And you need, whether it's from up above or a therapist or a counselor or something, you need that additional help, because it's too hard to try to sort through all that stuff.
Right. My husband, I found out that when we got together, he would tell me these little stories, and he acted really different in certain ways, and I could connect with it until one day I asked him, I said, "Were you abused?" And he says, "Oh no, I was never abused. I'm a man. I'm not abused." And when he broke down what things had happened, I said, "Well, babe, do you realize that's abuse? That men can be abused too?"
Absolutely.
And it floored him, because he did not realize. And a lot of us don't understand that men can be just as abused, whether it be financially, physically. And he was actually stabbed once in the chest.
Wow.
And he
didn't consider that abuse?
No. He actually, the way he tells the story, and I'm just like, babe, that's abuse.
Yeah. If you got stabbed, it was either attempted murder or abuse or something. I mean, it just stuff like that just doesn't. Well, let me see. I got up this morning and I had my breakfast. Now I think I'm gonna go stab somebody. Something in that process just doesn't line up.
I think it's because he just was like, well, she got mad.
Well,
but
again,
that's not how you react.
No, but it's when you get right down to it, it's amazing what you can get used to. It is, and that's what it boils down to. If the abuse starts happening when you're a kid, you grow into it. So you learn to adapt. You learn to adapt, and you don't really know anything else, so you consider that to be normal.
Exactly.
As far as it's starting when you're an adult, more often than not, it's because you want whatever that connection is with the person that's abusing you, whether it be love or whatever. You want that connection so badly that you're willing to put up with those things. And it's kind of mind-boggling when you sit back and think about it, because if for someone that's never been abused on any level, if you sit there and you tell them these stories and you tell them different things, it doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't register. Right. They're like, I don't understand how that can be a thing. But, for those of us who have dealt with it in some way, shape, or form, we know that's an entirely different story.
Oh, yeah.
So now let me ask you, all right. So you dealt with abuse when you were a child. It continued into your adulthood. With relationships and things like that. The drug abuse, were you I got to ask you, because it seems to be, at least in my experience, most people who have gone through some of the stuff you've gone through and then they get involved with abusing drugs, it's more to kind of like numb the pain than anything else. Is that what was going on, or was there something else?
I started by dealing drugs because, I lived in the projects, I lived in bad neighborhoods, and it was a way to take care of my children. When I got my daughter back, it was a way to make ends meet. Even though I was working in different little cotton factories and stuff like that, it still wasn't enough to make ends meet. Right. And hustling was easy. That's what I knew. So it started by doing that. Then it started by my friends starting to use, and, hey, I'll try it. I'll try this. I can stop at any point in time. Then it got into such a deep depression that I was just basically like, screw it, and I started using crack. And that was the longest 6 months I can actually say in my life. And I was working. So I also didn't feel it was an addiction because, I'm going to work.
Right.
And I was a med tech. So on our med tech cart, I worked for mentally ill people. I would end up, the meds that we were supposed to throw away, I was throwing them into my pocket. So
wow.
would take them
Okay.
home and mix them and I didn't know that they were uppers and downers and they would mess your heart up and all that. So I would
Hmm.
go home and take a variety of them and drink and smoke weed, and then I started smoking crack. But I was working, so I wasn't an addict to me
Yeah, yeah,
until
yeah. Because and that and that's not uncommon because most people think of an addict as somebody that's a junkie that's laying
yeah,
around on the street that just can't function in normal
yeah,
society. And years
that's not
ago
true.
years ago that was that was a pretty prevalent thought
Hmm.
process. But now we realize that you've got people in corporate America that are
Yeah,
addicted to cocaine and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, look at the opioid epidemic is just absolutely crazy.
which I work in
Um,
the middle of.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, and people don't realize sometimes you've just got to say, nope, not doing it.
Yeah,
Like as you well know, I just had my knee replaced back in
right.
December. I had both the surgery and the recovery 100% opioid free.
Good for you.
100%. They put a Novocaine drip in me the day of the surgery, and that lasted for like 4 days. Every so often, it would put a little bit of Novocaine in to numb my knee, but that was it. Other than that, I took Tylenol
Right.
because I know what it's like. I came close. I came very close back in 2014. I tore my rotator cuff in 3 different places, and I had to have surgery to repair it. And if you know anybody that's ever had that surgery done, it's one of the most painful surgeries that you can have.
Wow.
It is because you're stuck. Anything that you do, you're putting pressure on that joint. If you're sitting
Right.
there, you're putting pressure on the joint. If you're twisting, your muscles are pulling. And so it's like almost no way to get comfortable. I spent 6 months after the surgery using oxycodone and stuff like
Oh,
that,
wow.
because it was the only, I mean, I was in a recliner and that was all, if I wanted to sleep, I had to take it and all that.
Right.
And I had gotten to the point that after the rehab and everything was all said and done, I started to notice that even though it wasn't like feeling bad throughout the day, and I really didn't even think it was feeling that bad, like when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I would lay in bed and I would toss and turn unless I took some
Yep.
once I took something. And I, after about a week or so of that, I was like, you know what? Nope, I'm not going down this road. I had a problem with alcohol when I was a teenager, and I have been sober for 36 years now.
Good for you.
Yeah. So, it's like, and I'm one of those people that if I let things get the best of me, I have an addictive personality. Okay.
So do I.
Yeah. So it's like I was like, nope. And I literally got up out of bed and I took the pills that I had left and I flushed them down the toilet. And to this day, anytime I've ever had anything done, I just don't take them. They prescribe them to me and I throw them in the trash or I don't even fill the prescription.
I'm the same. I'm the exact same way. I won't take anything.
Yeah.
Tylenol, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's me. I take Tylenol. I take anti-inflammatories like some ibuprofen or whatnot if I'm
Right.
having some sort of issue like that, and natural supplements. But other than that, I don't take anything either. So now let me ask you: everything that you've been through and all the stuff, which came first? Because you wrote a book, and we're going to talk about that. But what was it that came first? Was it the inspiration for the book or your weight loss journey? Which one of those came first, and how did one
The
play
book.
off the other? The book
The
came
book
first?
came first. The book, I started writing my book, I think, in 2013, and I
Mm-hmm.
really went head forth into it into 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And the weight loss thing came into effect about 2 years ago, but I really dove head on into it in September last year.
Okay. All right. What do you think? All right, so let's back up. If the book came first, let's talk about the book. Now, the name of
Okay.
the book is The Broken Woman.
Hmm.
Um, Tell me a little bit about how you came up with the title. I mean, I've got a pretty good idea myself, but we've never discussed this, so I want to hear your point of view, how you came up with the title.
So this is where a lot of people think I'm just like loopy in the head.
Mhm.
I'm a very spiritual person.
Right.
Despite everything I've been through, I've always clung on to my faith in God. I was
Mhm.
raised a Jehovah's Witness. I, thank goodness I'm away from that, no
Right.
offense to anybody, but my grandparents were Christian, and I remembered hearing them pray and they were just the most loving people. And I
Right.
took that little bit of faith that I got from them and clung on to it through everything I had been through. So I was going to Penn State. I started writing this poem, which is the beginning of my book, called Broken Woman.
Right.
And after I was done, I was at my son's house. He had no Wi-Fi. So the only thing I had was my cell phone with the little keyboard, where you flip it out. And I wanted to share it on Facebook to a couple of my friends, my female friends. I was like, wow, this poem really hit me. It was really good. And as I'm typing it, this long poem on Facebook, you can't imagine how long it took. I heard a voice that said, that will be the name of your book.
Huh.
And I'm looking around like, okay, I'm home alone.
Right.
I don't know who I have to shoot.
yeah. Let me get my gun. Where you at? Yeah, exactly.
I realized, God was telling me, okay, that's the name of your book, and that's where you have to go with it. And it took me a while because I was like, yeah, I'm in school. I'm not writing a book. I don't have the means. I don't know anything about a book. And it just happened. Like I wrote it, it happened, and that's where it went. And I am the broken woman.
Right. But see, that's the great thing about anything that's broken, especially when it's a living organism. In most cases, it can heal. And that's obviously in a multitude of ways, that's exactly what you've done. Now I personally have read your book. I thought it was an amazing compilation of poems and scripture and stories about your life. I mean, the way it was all put together was it was beautiful to me. I thoroughly, matter of fact, I think I've read it like 2 or 3 times now.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I have never, since you and I have known each other, I've never made any bones about the fact that I think that your story, your journey in health and fitness, everything that you've been through, everything that you've done, and everything that you're going to do, it's all very inspirational to me. It speaks to me on a lot of levels because you are someone who is a lot like me in the ways that you want to take something that was a tragedy to you, and you want to take that and you want to use that to help others. Yes. I mean, like with my story and letting myself get to 400 pounds and practically dying from just not caring about what it was that I was putting in my body, to becoming the person I am today, absolutely driven from the time I get up to the time I go to bed to help as many people as possible avoid the same types of things that I had to go through. You and I are kindred spirits, and that's why. And it's funny because every time I read your book, I notice something a little bit different.
Imagine that's not even my whole story.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was just. When was that published?
Oh, I think it was published 3 years ago now, and I'm writing my next one. So.
Yeah, and how much has happened in 3 years?
A lot.
Quite a bit. So now let's get into September of last year, when you were you had been trying to improve your health, but something happened back in September of last year that lit a fire inside you, and you have literally been a human dynamo since. So why don't you tell us about that?
It was September. I had reached out to MPT. I know Kristen and John personally. I've worked with them with my book and their stuff, in the community.
Right.
And I asked how much their classes were because I was at Valley Health at the time. No offense to Valley Health, but I wasn't getting the help that I needed, the training. It was the same machine every day, and I saw a little bit of a difference, but I wasn't seeing enough. So I was getting really discouraged by this time. Right before I contacted them, I got into my car and I went to put my seatbelt on and I couldn't. It was really uncomfortable. My chins were down on my chest. Okay. My stomach was so far out there that I could not put my hands towards the steering wheel in a comfortable manner to even turn it. So I had it. For years, I've been asking people to help me lose weight for about 4 years.
Right.
I've been asking people to help me. I've been asking people, what do you do? Can I go to the gym with you?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said yes. Not
Right.
one single. It was, well, and I'd had it this moment when I couldn't even get comfortable driving to work, driving
Yeah.
to Fairfax for a work trip. I was in tears. I hated my body.
Right.
When Kristen and John told me to come and work out with them, and they would show me different techniques and work with my knees, I was it. That addictive personality took over. And I was
Right.
like, okay, this is a positive addiction. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to show everybody, more so myself, that I can lose weight and I
Yeah.
can do it. And that was it. I just flew into it in September and
Right.
I love it.
Yeah. People look at, making changes to try to improve their health and fitness. There are some people that just look at it like, I'm never going to be able to do it. Okay.
Oh,
I just, the last couple episodes of this podcast I've done with guys who've had dramatic weight loss. The first gentleman, his name is Gormy. He's Gormy Going Keto on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot. This man lost over 300 pounds, not once, but
wow.
twice.
Wow.
Okay. He lost it, he gained it back, and he lost it again.
Wow.
Talking to people like him, people like yourself, it just brings everything into focus that has me to the point where I am in my life, where I'm just like absolutely obsessed with trying to help people, because we live in a society today, Misty, where it's like the whole body positive movement.
Right.
You know it, I know it, and anybody that's got any sense in their head knows it. Being morbidly obese, you can say I'm okay in my skin, I'm comfortable in my skin, all that stuff, but it is not healthy for you
At all.
okay?
At all.
The fact of the matter is, you can't beat science. Okay. Your body's physiology says that if you have too much visceral fat, it puts pressure on your organs, it causes all your organs to work harder. And it's just like anything else. If it has to work too hard on a regular basis, eventually it breaks down.
I think I've had over 22 procedures done. I've had doctors say you're morbidly obese, go exercise. Here, take this pill, take that pill. By the end of the time, I'm on 9 to 14 pills at a time. And about exercising, what do I do? They're like, oh, just go walk. Just push the food away from you. Eat 2 or 3 times a day. And all of that is a complete lie.
Sure.
So they were even.
Yeah, because here's the thing. And this is one of the things that I'm a real stickler for when it comes to like when I'm working with clients. I'm going to get into your head. I want to know what's going on in there. Okay. Right. Because if you are a person that has let yourself get to a certain point where you are at risk health-wise from your weight, there's something more going on than you just don't know how to push the food away. Okay. There's always an underlying issue. Okay. They're called limiting factors is what we like to call them in the business. There are limiting factors that keep a person from living a healthy lifestyle. Sometimes it's people's way of dealing with abuse. Sometimes it is, it's just a matter of they see what's happening, but they don't know how to do anything about it. And because they don't know how to do anything about it, they have this feeling of hopelessness. And then when that happens, they give up and they don't do anything at all.
My problem was I wasn't eating. So growing up in an abusive home, my stepfather and mother would not feed me for a day or two at a time. And when they would feed me, it was usually a bowl of rice with a scoop of peanut butter or a sandwich that consisted of lettuce, mayonnaise, and peanut butter. Right. And I was thrown food like a dog. So food was used as a reward system or a punishment growing up. Right. My brothers would go get to eat out and I'd have to stare at them and watch. That was my punishment. So when I grew up, I started punishing myself. Yeah. Okay, you're heavy, X-lax, lots of water, coffee, don't eat. So I would eat maybe one meal a day, and then there'd be those times when I would binge eat. And then I'd punish myself and not eat for a couple more days. And when I started doing that, I really gained weight. And
Oh, yeah.
I think last year in September, I started to realize that, but in January of this year, it really hit me as to why I got the weight on that I did, and how I was doing the same thing that what happened to me growing up. And I think it was just me abusing myself.
Right.
And I didn't realize I had to eat,
Yeah. See, that's the biggest thing. It's one of the biggest misconceptions in health and fitness is that extreme calorie deficits. If you want to lose, if you have a lot of weight to lose, then you need to cut a lot of calories. You don't realize what that does to your body.
Right.
If you go extended periods of time where you are not eating the amount of calories that you should be eating just to sustain a healthy lifestyle, your metabolism starts to slow down.
Right.
Because what it does, our bodies are extremely adaptive. We can adapt to so many situations. It's absolutely insane. And if you go for months and months and months where say you should be eating a minimum of 2,200 calories a day, you're eating 1,200 calories a day, and you do that for 3 or 4 months, your metabolism is going to slow down and adapt to the food that you've been putting in it for that length of time. So when you have people that will go a couple days without eating and things like, now, no, don't get me wrong. Intentional fasts, they have their place every now and then. But, for people that are just like, oh, I'm fat, so I'm just not going to eat for a couple days, and I'm not going to drink anything but water and all this stuff, they wind up actually doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
A few years back, you started hearing the term reverse dieting a lot. And pretty much what that is for people that have been on extreme calorie deficits for a long period of time. If your metabolism has adjusted to that level, and then you immediately, like if you've been at a 1,000 calorie a day deficit, and then you try to jump to a 500 calorie surplus without doing some kind of backpedaling, your body doesn't know how to handle it. It's like, and a lot of times when you're getting more nutrients in your body than what all the processes inside you feel like you should be getting, it winds up getting stored as fat. So it's actually counterproductive to the whole process. And so this yo-yo dieting and all this crazy stuff that you see people doing nowadays, I'm not a violent person, but I really want to smack some people, especially the people that like go on YouTube and different places like this. And they're like, oh, well, all I did was cut down to eat 900 calories a day. And I did that for 3 months and I got down to be a size 0. Yeah. Well, you might have done that, but you lost a lot of muscle mass.
Yeah.
And you're not as healthy as you think you are.
Kristen always pushes me to eat more.
Yeah.
And I don't diet. The first thing everybody says is, what diet are you on? I'm not dieting. I eat healthy. The first 3 words of dieting are die.
Yep.
I eat.
Yep. I typically don't use, with my clients, I don't use the word diet. I will say things like dietary protocol, nutritional protocol, things like that, because here's the thing. There are probably 100 let's just say there's 100 popular diets out there right now. It may be more, it may be less, but let's just throw that number out there for argument's sake. 2 months from now, there'll be twice that.
Yeah.
And when that 2 months comes, half of the ones that were like super popular now, you won't even hear about them anymore.
They're fads.
Yeah, you have the fad dieting and all this other stuff that goes on. And because people are always on this journey where they're always trying, I tried this diet and I had results for a couple of weeks and then it didn't work. So the next diet comes out and they jump on that. And the next diet comes out and they jump on that. It's just, you're fighting a losing battle. The easiest way to put yourself in a position where you can start to build a healthy lifestyle and maintain it is to realize what food does to your body, first and foremost. You need to understand what protein does in the body, what carbohydrates do in the body. You need to understand that fat is not evil. Your body needs fat. I tell this to so many people, for years, and I'm sure you can remember this, where everybody said, "Oh, saturated fat will kill you. Saturated fat will kill you." You realize 30% of your brain alone, 30% of your brain is made up of saturated fat. The membrane that surrounds every cell in your body is made up of saturated fat. So what do you think happens if you cut all saturated fat out of your diet? You know, it's not right. All these other diseases and stuff started popping up, and they're like, "Oh, well, we don't understand." It's because they're finding out that this research study that was done back in the 1920s was, just wasn't accurate. And we actually need saturated fat in our bodies. So it's just one of those things. So you don't diet, you just eat healthy. Now, do you track your calories? Let me ask you that. Or do you just eat when you're hungry?
So I was taking pictures of my food and sending it to Kristen, or else I tell her what I eat. Okay. Basically, she's okayed what I eat. If I when I went and bought my new car the other day, I sent her a picture because I had a Diet Coke like that big. Oh. And I was like, "I'm sorry." She was like, "It's okay. I don't drink soda. I had a migraine. I do not drink soda." Mm-hmm. But basically, she's okay with what I eat because what I do is every 3 hours at least, I'm eating something. Okay, and that's good. What I mostly eat is protein and vegetables, whether it be frozen vegetables or fresh vegetables. That's what I eat. I have implemented a little bit of carbs into my diet, healthy carbs, but I drink lots of water. I've basically taken out all sugars. I eat oatmeals, and that's just it. I make sure I eat. I will even eat right before I go to bed. It's not heavy, but I do eat.
People don't realize that is a big thing, especially it depends on how much you get to eat throughout the day. But the most important thing that you can realize about eating before you go to bed is the way your body works when you sleep. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you're not intaking food, if you sleep for 8 hours a night, you figure if you eat 2 hours before you go to bed, which is how most people do things, 2 to 3 hours before they go to bed, you're fasting for 8 to 10 hours. Yep. Okay? During that time, your body still needs to have energy. And if you don't have a lot of excess of it just kind of floating around, your body starts to break down muscle tissue because protein is the easiest. Protein breaks down to amino acids, which is the easiest to convert into glucose to be used as energy in the body. So that's what winds up happening. Yep. That puts you in what they call a catabolic state. I tell people, think of it as your body is cannibalizing itself, because that's exactly what it does. There's a reason why the first meal of the day is called breakfast. You're breaking your fast. But if you eat something within an hour or so before you go to bed, something that has a little bit of, the best thing to do is make sure that it has a little bit of healthy fats, a little bit of fiber, and a fair amount of protein. If you do that, you're going to find that you aren't cannibalized quite so much overnight when you're sleeping. So it's really good that you do that. But that was another myth that was around for years and years and years. Right. Before you go to bed, you'll get fat. No, you won't.
I actually read a study, I think it was earlier today, that a lot of people who are healthy, they wonder why they died during the night or when they got up was because they hadn't eaten. Many people have woke up and passed out, fainted, because of not eating, because they wouldn't eat 3 or 4 hours before they went to bed. Yep. So they are anemic, or their blood pressure, their sugar levels have dropped, and they end up dying. And the study, I have to find it and send it to you, because it really made me think twice. Oh yeah. Because my husband found me passed out one morning at 4 a.m. Yeah, and my blood sugar had dropped.
I heard that story. He told me that story. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I think
it scared the hell out of him.
It did, because he said something to me about it. Because we were actually talking about his eating habits. Yeah, and he was all. He said, "Well, yeah, she, I've learned some stuff because she's had some bad habits sometimes, and some things have happened that the boy scared the living daylights out of me, and I learned real quick." So, but that's the thing, it doesn't matter if you have 20 pounds to lose or 200 pounds to lose. you need to make sure that you're giving the body the fuel that it needs,
right,
without going to excess. That's the most important thing. And I hate to say it, so many people, I've actually had people comment and send me messages on Facebook and say, oh, you're one of them people that just pounds keto and pounds keto. No, I'm not. So do I follow a ketogenic diet? Yes. But that doesn't mean that everybody should. Do I think everybody should try it at some point in time? Sure. I think you should, because there's a lot of benefits that can be had from it. But what I am is I am anti-eating too many carbs. Right. And there's a reason for that. And I say this so often. If you are taking in more carbohydrates than you need, your body's natural response to it is to send it to the liver. It gets turned to fat, and it gets stored for later use. Right. Now, as you store all this fat, it becomes more difficult for you to use the glucose from the carbohydrates. So if you continue to eat a lot of carbohydrates, it's a vicious cycle that turns you into an obese individual. It's how it happens.
But people don't know how to shop for food either. I mean, that's what they go straight. They go straight for the carbs, and that's.
Have you ever heard the story, or have you ever heard the saying that if you want to shop healthy, walk in a grocery store and go around the perimeter?
Yep, and that's exactly what I do.
Don't go up and down the aisles. Shop around the perimeter. You will get your meat, you'll get your dairy, you'll get your veggies, and then get the hell out.
Yep. The only thing I go up the aisle for is my coffee.
Yeah, you gotta have your coffee now. But see, coffee's got a lot of benefits to it too. It's got a lot of antioxidants and other things in it. So, I mean, I'm not a coffee drinker. I get my caffeine, I mix it in with my little electrolyte drink, and I'm good to go. I trust me, 20-hour days, I use some caffeine, but I make sure that I'm getting plenty of electrolytes and stuff with it too. So now, tell me what it was that made you decide that you wanted to be part of the body transformation division in the OCB.
She tricked me. No.
Who tricked you?
Stacy.
Stacy tricked you?
So she
I thought you were going to say Kristen tricked you.
No. So she reached out to me about it, I guess, because she had saw pictures I've been posting about exercising and stuff. And I think it was either at the end of September, middle, something like that. And she says, I've been watching you. And I said, okay. And she's like, I want you to join this. And I thought I was going to go in. They was going to watch me on, Facebook or whatever. I was going to go in, be judged, walk away.
Right.
I didn't realize the whole process to this.
But when you get down to it, it's not that bad. It's like I have one person that's actually, he lives out in Iowa, and he's considering coming out and being in it. He's had a fairly decent transformation himself. I've been working with him in the Dad Bod Transformation Group.
Right.
I've been advising him on nutrition and exercise and whatnot. And, he's like, well, it sounds nice. I want to share my story and inspire other people, but he's like, if I got to put some of them posing trunks on and get up there on that stage, then I'm not going to do it. And I was like, well, let me tell you, if you had to do that, I wouldn't be asking you to do it, because you've done a good job, but I'm not trying to see you in a Speedo. You know what I'm saying? It's just not, no, we're never going to be there. Okay. Well, him and I are never going to be that good of friends that I want to see him in a Speedo. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, I mean,
I think, what really pushed me to do it is how many people are inspired by me, not just through my book and being that hope dealer, but I've had a lot of women and men reach out and say, wow, look at you. How'd you do it? How'd you get started? What do I need to do? Thank you for doing this. Thank you for posting your journey, because we get to watch you and it inspires us.
Yep.
I walked into a store the other day and there was a woman, and she just all of a sudden asked me all these questions. And I said, well, let me ask you what you ate today. Oh, I ate a big old bowl of macaroni and cheese, and that's it. I said, oh, Lord, baby, let me sit down. But she listened to me because she saw my story, and I was able to help her. And if I can diabetes 2, the beginning of kidney disease, asthma, Barrett's disease, blood pressure, cholesterol, I'm not trying to be there my whole life. And if I can help somebody else from going down the same journey you and I have gone through, then that's all that matters to me. because I have energy. I feel better. You know, the weight's not off of me yet, but it's a process.
Sure.
But I feel
You
so
didn't
much better.
You didn't get big. You didn't get big
Exactly.
overnight. You're not gonna get small overnight either.
Exactly. And it feels good. And I want people to feel as good as I feel already, if not better. I don't want people to die, because America does not teach us all these facts about exercise and nutrition. It's fast, easy all the time.
Right. It's like, you know, I look at the youth of today. You know, it's like I went, this was probably about 6 months ago, something like that, maybe a little longer. I went to pick my granddaughter up from school, and I watched as the kids came pouring out of school, and I will guarantee you that a good 70% of them were obese.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you didn't see that 10, 15, you know, you didn't see that 10, 15 years ago. Yep. You did not see it at all. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same way as you, Misty. You know, I mean, I am 100% driven to help as many people as possible. I was actually, I did a live in the Dad Bod group this morning, and we were talking about it, and somebody actually asked me, they were like, why are you, because we were talking about the whole body positivity thing. And let me tell you, I had a fire lit under me this morning, and I was, you know, I'm the son of a mechanic, and I worked in the construction field. So let me tell you that I got a mouth like a sailor on me at times. That's just horrible. And we got discussing this thing in this live this morning, and I mean, I was just spitting fire. And I had to stop myself. I was like, look, you know, I apologize for the language, but the fact of the matter is I'm extremely passionate about this. My goal before the day I die, my goal is to, if I don't totally wipe out, you know, unnecessary obesity and type 2 diabetes in the world, I want to take a serious chunk out of its backside, because I'm one of those people that if I'm going down, I'm going to take a piece of you with me.
Yep.
And that's where I'm at with this whole thing, because there is so much. Don't get me wrong. I am all about inspiring people to the point of, you know, if you're in a situation that you cannot control, don't look down on yourself. You know, be proud of who you are and work to be a better person. I get that. But when you've got 10-year-old kids that are 200 pounds plus because all they do is sit on their butts and play video games and eat snacks, that is under somebody's control. That's under the parents' control. That's under the kids' control.
Yep.
You know, and that stuff lights a fire under me like there's no tomorrow. You know, there are certain things that will happen to people in life. There are certain metabolic conditions where your weight is your weight, and there isn't a whole lot you can do about it. But if you have the ability to do anything about it, you should, because it's a slow, agonizing death sentence.
I think, though, what we fail to realize, and I learned this in the health field, is just because somebody is thin does not mean they're healthy.
Exactly.
Just because somebody is heavy does not mean they're not healthy. We have a lot of heavy people who are actually built, but that's just the way their body is. And I think people are so busy stereotyping, and once that heavier set person that's unhealthy goes to the gym, everybody wants to criticize and, oh, aren't you too late, and make these rude comments instead of going, hey, good job, can I help you? You know, we're so busy judging and stereotyping that we're not lending that hand out. And that's how I felt going to the gym. That's why I never wanted to go, because I'd had people looking at me like, oh, look at her. So it just,
you know, I see people like you, people that are bigger than you. I see old people that go in the gym, and I see them, you know, it's like I actually enjoy the times where, like, if I'm walking through the gym or whatever, and like I see an old person there, and you could tell that they've never been in the gym before, they're not sure how to use a piece of equipment or whatnot, I definitely stop, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, do you need help? Let me explain to you how this piece of equipment works or whatever, because they're not going to be like everybody else. They're not going to be the people that are going to sit at home and accept their fate, accept the fact that they're old. I'm 53 years old. Trust me when I tell you, I'll probably die in a gym bench pressing or something. That'll be me, because I have no intentions of stopping.
Yeah.
I no matter what comes my way, this lifestyle that I live is always going to be my lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, just like people have seen my story, and they have seen where I come from, where I was to where I am now, and it's inspired a lot of people.
Right.
It's the whole reason I'm part of the Mountain State Classic, was because Stacy came across my story on my website because somebody else said, "Hey, you need to check this guy out." And then the next thing you know, her and I are meeting, and I'm the nutritionist for the OCB Mountain State Classic. Right. If I don't care who you are, if you're out here watching this right now and you have made strides in your life to improve the quality of your life, I don't care if it's your weight. Yeah. I don't care if it's you were in an abusive relationship and you found a way past that and you learned some valuable things about that. Share that with others. Yeah. Social media is for a whole lot more than booty pics and silly memes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So many people can benefit from your story if you just put it out there.
That's why I share. I'm very transparent. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people say, well, aren't you embarrassed? Well, aren't you this? No, I believe that I have went through everything for a reason.
Yep.
And instead of taking it negative, I make it who I am today. Everything that I've been through, don't tell me you're sorry for what I've been through, because I'm not. Mm-hmm. I feel that that's why I am the woman I am today.
Yep.
And if I can share my story, whether it be about abuse, drugs, whatever, and I can help one person, that's all that matters. I don't care what anybody thinks of my story. You know, back in the day, I would have been ashamed. Today, I'm not. And that's why I think that I've been driven towards being a substance abuse counselor. I just want to make that difference in our community. I had a woman yesterday, actually. She looked at me and she says, well, what do you know about drug abuse and why do you feel sorry for them? Mm-hmm. And I turned around in my chair. I whipped it around. I pointed my finger dead in her face and I said, because I am one. Yeah. I said, I was an addict. I have been in recovery 20 years. And I think I done it, knocked the whole shock out of her. But you need to tell your story, and that's the reason.
Yes. Yep.
So people need to stand up and tell, be proud of yourself for being what you've gone through. You're a survivor. I don't care what it is.
Yep. If you are, I don't care what kind of struggles you've had in your life. If you survived them, you did just that. And there's somebody else out there that's struggling with the exact same things that you struggled with, and they don't have a clue on they don't have a clue on what to do.
They need your story.
Yeah, exactly. Now, for all of the negative that can be said about social media, there is a lot of positive that comes from it through. I mean, you take groups like the Dad Bod Transformation Group. There are 23,000 plus guys that are members of that group. They're all joined that group looking for motivation and support because they want to live better lives for themselves and for their families. Wow. That's something that you can't find anywhere other than social media.
Wow.
So for as much bull crap and unnecessary stuff and things that you see on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, there's always those stories where, it's making a difference in people's lives. Yep. It's my hope with this podcast that the people that I interview, because I'm picking people to interview that inspire me in one way, shape, or form, just like you have. I interview people like you because I want to share your story with as many people as possible. And the best way to do that is to get it out in as many different directions as possible.
Right.
So, okay. Now I've got one final question that I ask. Yeah, this is the big one. This is the whammy. It's a question that I ask everybody that I do a podcast with, no matter whether it's in the Dad Bod group or on my podcast. If you could change one thing about health and fitness on a global level, meaning that you would put an idea out there, you would institute a policy, you would start a movement, whatever it is, if you could affect one thing about health and fitness on a global level, what would it be?
The stereotype.
the stereotype of?
I would change the stereotype because, like I said, people think that all thin people are healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes me say that is my husband. Our society has taught that if you're thin, you're healthy.
Yeah.
My husband tried to work out, almost passed out, and came to the realization that he's not so healthy. And he's a nice built man.
Yeah.
But he's not healthy. We automatically assume because of our body structure that we're healthy, and we're not. And I think we need to just reach out and break that stereotype. We need to talk more about it. Those of us that are in, those of us that are trying to lose weight or, in the health and nutrition, whatever it be, weightlifting, whatever, we need to help and break that stigma.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. It's like, I had a friend that him and I have been friends for over 20 years. He was 54 years old. Now, this man, I'd known him forever, and I never knew him to have more than like 8% body fat. He was always a very hardworking man, healthy, no health issues that I knew of at all. And I'm at work one day, and my phone starts ringing in the top of my toolbox. I was working as a mechanic. I'll never forget it. And the phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's his daughter, who at this point in time, she was probably like 23 or 24, but I had changed her diapers. And she's like, John, Dad died. And I'm like, what? Wow. And she's like, yeah, said he was at work and he was carrying a tub of material. He worked at this place that made brake pads. He actually took the raw materials and he put it in this mixer that made up the stuff that they made the brake pads with. And they found him literally slumped over in this barrel of stuff that he'd been carrying, and he just dropped dead of a heart attack.
Wow. And,
at this point in time, I had already begun my journey. I hadn't gotten to the point where I was in the gym, but I was, I had already made it through the coma and all that stuff. And I had started losing weight. At this point in time, I'd probably lost a good 75 pounds. And it just out of the blue. And to look at this man, you never would have thought in a million years that he wasn't just as healthy as the day is long.
Right.
But boom. So that just goes to show you, you're exactly right. Now, I have known people that were obese, lived to be 80 years old. Right. You know what I'm saying? And didn't have a lot of health issues and whatnot. You never really know for sure.
Right.
Is the majority of people that are obese are going to have health issues at some point in time. That doesn't mean everybody is, but the majority of them will. And if it's something that you can change, if that's a risk factor that you have the ability to do something about, why not do it?
Right. And I tell people all the time, like, you don't have to do the journey I do. I go hard just because that's me.
Right.
I mean,
that's your personality.
Exactly.
Yep.
I'm just asking you to get up and take a walk a couple times a day. If you're binge watching Netflix, hey, how come every commercial or between movies you're not getting up and doing some jumping jacks or crunches, something, you know? Like I say, you don't have to go as hard as I go. Just do something, please. Because I don't want to see people with me, going down the same road I've gone down. I'm 50 this year, and I shouldn't be like this. Somebody should have helped me earlier.
Right.
And it's sad that I have to battle all of this, but yet maybe there's a reason so that I could help viewers and everybody else.
There's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason that you are in the exact position that you are right now. Make no mistake.
But it's sad. Nobody reached out to me. Nobody.
Yeah. Well, it's the world we live in.
Yeah, it is.
If it doesn't affect people, they're not concerned.
But I have to say, I mean, you really have reached out. We've really gotten to know each other. And the fact that you reached out to my husband and said, look, you're going to die. If you're not going to do it for you, do it for your wife. Yep.
And that's it. And it's just, and I tell people this all the time, for anybody that's never worked with me or never had a conversation with me, I pull absolutely no punches. No. I told her husband that I would put my size 13 foot in his backside if he didn't start taking his behind to the gym and work out on a regular basis. Because here's his wife who's like busting her butt to make sure that she can be healthy to be around for him, and he owed it to her to do the same thing. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't pull any punches. I don't think before that time, I don't think I'd spent more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes talking to Rick.
Right.
But by the time that workout was done that day, I had no problem telling him, get your shit together, man. Get it together.
And on his days off of work, he works out.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, Misty. Well, that pretty much takes care of everything that I had to talk to you about. This episode was well worth the wait. It was everything that I thought it was going to be and more. But before we go, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on Instagram, Facebook, and stuff like that, so they can follow your journey?
You just have to follow me. I think on Instagram, it's Minister Misty Harris. On Facebook, it's Misty Harris. And then I also have a page called The Broken Woman. And on the web, it is thebrokenwoman.net. Had to remember.
Well, that's okay. If you said it wrong, we're going to link it up in the show notes so everybody have a link there to click on. Because I'm the same way. I'm like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I can't remember all that stuff. So believe me, I understand. All right, Misty. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and we will see you again.
All right, sweetheart.